be tired. So there will be a lot of amenities going down to encourage the god to go down. Typically, beside the ziggurat is a temple. So in order for God to reside in the temple, he has to go down first. And this is his staircase. That's why the main feature of this is a staircase, and they expect the gods to go down there, go down here, enter the temple, and there receive their worship. And there, God will be pleased with them. But how can they worship God if God was not there in the temple? So they had to bring him down, cajole him to come down with different amenities in order that he can enter the temple and receive their worship. And when God is pleased, God will bless them. So this is the thing that they wanted to build. A stairways to make it convenient for God to come down in the temple in order to receive their worship. So what is wrong? What was so wrong with this? Come, let us build for ourselves a city and a tower whose top will reach into the heavens, and let us make for ourselves a name. Otherwise, we will be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth. Well, what's wrong with this, firstly, is what? What do you notice? Let us build for ourselves a city and a tower whose top will reach the heaven, and let us make for ourselves a name. Otherwise, we will be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth. It's all about them. Their worship, their service to God is not for God's sake. It's all about what they want. Us, ourselves, we make for our names for ourselves. We will be scattered abroad. It's all about their pride. It's all about their disobedience. They didn't want to be scattered abroad when God told them to be scattered. So it was a prideful disobedience. And they wanted to build something to make for themselves a name. Something that will endure forever. So that people will forever remember them for doing something great. Like the great pyramids of Egypt, right? They were built so that people will remember the great pharaohs of age. Their famous exploits. But what else could there be? You know, though we looked at chapter 10 and we just read it, the person that received the most comment in Genesis chapter 10 is Nimrod. And it is said that it was Nimrod who was the ruler when Babel was built, the Tower of Babel. And we see here, now Cush became the father of Nimrod, who became a mighty one of the earth. This Nimrod who got the greatest exposure in chapter 10, 3 verses, is described as the mighty one. Meaning what? He was a naked aggressor. He is aggressively pursuing with force territories. He became the mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. What that means is even the Lord considered him a mighty hunter. Meaning his reputation really was before him. And what does the meaning of Nimrod? What the name Nimrod mean? The name Nimrod means we shall rebel. And and like a dictator, his mindset is we shall rebel. We shall not obey the commands of God. We will not scatter, but instead we will rebel. And with one lips and with one language, the whole population agreed with him that they will rebel against the will of God to scatter themselves. Going back to chapter 11, verse 4, it says, Then they said, Come, let us build for ourselves a city, and whose tower whose top will reach into the heavens, and let us make for ourselves a name. Otherwise we will be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth. Now, we saw one of the reasons why this is an abomination to God is because of the pride, of the rebellion, of the disobedience of the people. But the other thing that makes this really awful is the fact that the ziggurat represents the Babylonian religious system. When the people at that time see a ziggurat, to them, that image has a meaning. And what is the meaning of that? That God is like a human being. That is the imagery that a ziggurat, that is the message of a ziggurat. That God is like human. He has needs. He needs to be fed. He needs to be clothed. He needs to be housed. He needs to be pampered. He needs to be patronized. He can't be manipulated. And if you don't treat God properly, like your parents, if you don't treat your parents properly, you not get an allowance. Here, that when you see a ziggurat, that comes to mind during that time. That our gods are like human beings, that we need to please them lest they get mad. We need to appease them. We should ensure. That's why nga, diba, before when I said when they were doing burnt offerings, the belief was the gods was after the flood, the gods was parang all eager for the burnt offerings because they haven't eaten also. And that burnt offerings was the food of the gods. They had this distorted view of who God is, a very selfish, a very humanistic, that has a big ego, that we need to manipulate if we are to get His blessings. And this levels up the corruption of mankind. Initially, when man sinned, the corruption was just within man. Man was distorted. Man was disobedient. Adam and Eve sinned. And then it went to his family. Cain killed Abel. It's still within the corruption and the fallenness of man. Man was sinful. The family was sinful. Then it went to Noah. The whole earth now is sinful. So bad that God said, I will wipe it out. But still, the corruption was still in the realm of mankind. But here, the corruption left mankind. The offense of the builder of the tower is that they took a dramatic change in the perception of man and the corruptness of man's mind. Now they are corrupting who God is. Before they were just corrupting themselves. They were sinning, they were killing, they were doing all the sins and corrupting the image bearers. But with this ziggurat, they were corrupting who God is. That is the sin. Because what's so big deal of making a structure? It's not the structure that is sinful. It is the meaning of the structure. That we have a God that needs to be appeased. They have corrupted who God is. And because of that, they try to manipulate Him in order to get the most benefit from God. That's why the title of the message, Stop Manipulating God. And a lot of times, are we not the same? And we might not speak it. But we say, Lord, I'm faithful. Lord, I've been doing this. Lord, I've been doing that. But why am I not being blessed by you? That's a ziggurat mentality. Thinking that if we do something for God, He is obligated to bless us. And that's what they're doing at that time. Now, if you look at again, as we move to this verse, the whole world had one language. They settled there. In verse 3, they said to each other, come, let us make bricks. Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower. Again, the plan of Nimrod, the plan of man to circumvent the authority of God was moving forward. And the author was showing through this how man was trying to move forward. But in verse 5 it says, then the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of man had built. True enough, the ziggurat was made for what? For God to come down. And indeed here, God went down to thoroughly investigate what was going on. Very aligned to what a ziggurat aligned to what a ziggurat is. It was a structure for man to entice God to come down to receive their worship. As you see here, we're looking at Genesis chapter 11, verse 1 to 9, right? And the middle verse is what? Verse 5. The climax of the story is verse 5. The Lord came down. Verse 1 to 4 is all about the human endeavor in trying to push his plans apart from the will of God. Verse 5, the Lord comes down and takes hold of the situation. And verse 5 to 9, we will see how God untangles everything that man was doing. Verse by verse by verse. It was intentional. If you note here in verse 5, it says, the city of the tower. In verse 4, it's exactly the same. A city with a tower. The last part of verse 5 says that the men were building. In verse 4, the start, come, let us build ourselves. Do you see how the author is trying to show the climax is God goes down and takes control of the situation and undoes everything that man was trying to do apart from God. I realize something. Every effort that we make apart from the will of God is futile. Even if we think we are progressing in life. Because we're not. It will be untangled in this life or in the life to come.